Hi there, I'm Scott Jeffery with Nelson Fire and Rescue Services. I'm here today to talk to you about wildfire preparedness and specifically how we do that within the city of Nelson. So within Nelson here we have a full-time career structural fire department, and we look after approximately 10,000 people in the city, but we also have 4,000 people in our contract area that we look after in the outside the urban area. So we've been doing the Fire Smart assessments for people to help them educate themselves about wildfire preparedness for the last 15 years, and there's been a real uptick in the reception of the Fire Smart message in recent years. The last two fire seasons have been very intense, and it's at the forefront of everyone's mind. So yeah, we feel as structural firefighters that the best defense for people when it comes to wildfires is focusing on their own home first, and specifically focusing on the first 1.5 meters. Within Nelson we have a lot of small urban lots that are very tight, so the traditional Fire Smart message of looking at the bigger picture, not everyone is responsible for that on their own property, and we encourage each individual homeowner to take action on their own land. We do approximately 100 to 125 Fire Smart home assessments per year, and what's involved with this is coming around, booking an appointment, and having a firefighter come to their home and do a walk around with them, and that allows them to ask specific questions, and the firefighter can then pass on direct Fire Smart knowledge to them. And a lot of the key weaknesses that we see around town where people might have vulnerabilities on their structures are unclean gutters at the rooftop, and then as we come down the house, on the sides of the houses, when people store wood piles adjacent to their house, or if they have combustible shrubbery near their home. Today I've got some examples of both favorable and unfavorable Fire Smart species here that we're going to be letting the public know about. Some of the classics are cedars and juniper bushes that are planted close to homes, and when these are planted often right on either side of the front door or underneath the soffit, they become a direct conduit for fire to move from the outside of the house into the attic of the house. So number one step people can take is removing the fuels from the first 1.5 meters of the house. So as you get down close to the ground then too, in any ember-driven firestorm, embers will accumulate both in rooftop gutters but also against a building at the base, and in that portion it's important not to have any bark mulch or anything that can support a slow burning fire, because it's that slow burning fire that can become established at the edge of the home, move slowly into the home, and then become a structure fire. So an important part of the Fire Smart program looks at the composition of the building and what it's made of. With that we start looking at the roof, and the roof is often the greatest vulnerability in a structure because it's where aerial embers can settle in, and they can both get established in specifically a cedar roof is the greatest risk, and embers will smolder in that cedar roof and then get established in the attic, and away you go with a structure fire with a cedar roof specifically. A much safer alternative is a traditional asphalt shingle roof. People think that asphalt shingles they do burn in a fire, but they're resistant to that ignition, so the embers will just sit on top and they'll actually smolder and go out on an asphalt surface roof. There's been a bunch of studies on this, and they've been classified as a safer alternative to a wooden roof. Other great roof materials are a metal roof, of course, is going to be resistant to that ember deposit as well. As you come down the building, the siding makes a difference in what type of siding you have. Non-combustible siding, cement board siding, or steel sheeting, of course, is the most fire resistive, or stucco type siding. A slightly higher risk is a wood siding or a cedar shingle siding. To my left here is a map of Nelson. It's from our community wildfire preparedness plan, and what it does is it shows the city and critical infrastructure with a 2-kilometer buffer around it. Now there's a very specific reason why a 2-kilometer buffer was chosen for this map and this threat analysis, is because studies have shown that hot embers can be transported it's quite probable that they could be transported up to 2 kilometers in a wind-driven fire. And so this is why we feel that any and all members of Nelson's community should be taking Fire Smart seriously, because wind-driven fire could deliver those hot embers to to all parts of town, theoretically. When you take a close look at the map, you see mostly green in the urban core, and as you get towards the periphery, there's more red, showing an elevated risk. But in reality, given a worst-case scenario with a wind-driven fire and embers that could be falling at any part of town, any and all parts of Nelson could be at risk from a wind-driven ember fire. So that's why we look to each homeowner to take it upon themselves to take those preparedness steps with FireSmart. In an event that this worst-case scenario happens, they themselves will be that much further ahead and able to, for their own structure, to protect itself, essentially. When we look back at catastrophic fire losses in Canada, being Kelowna in 2003, or more recently in Slave Lake or Fort McMurray, there's structure losses in the hundreds or even thousands in the worst-case scenario. And what happens in those cases is a wind-driven ember fire quickly outstrips the resources of a fire department and all responding agencies, and you start to get individual homes igniting from ember-driven fires. You also, once one home is established with a structure fire, you can have structure-to-structure protection or structure-to-structure ignition happening, and that's why you're getting losses into the hundreds and even thousands in those cases. So I feel it's really important for each and every person to take steps towards fire-smarting their own house, so they're going to risk. Number one, they're going to reduce the risk of those ember-driven fires, and they're also going to reduce the fuel adjacent to their neighbor's house too. So maybe you're going to have effect on slowing down that structure-to-structure fire as well. So if people within the city of Nelson or in our contract area close by would like more information, they're always welcome to call the fire department at 250-352-3103, and we'll be happy to talk with them about FireSmart or book at a FireSmart home assessment for them. And that's where they can really get the best benefit of that education and answer those specific questions about their home, is by having a firefighter come to their door and do an assessment for them. They can also take it upon themselves to be familiar with the FireSmart Homeowners Manual. It's available in a print form and also online, and they can access that through firesmartbc.ca as a great resource for education and direction to any of those resources.